The Chitrik Academy is dedicated in loving memory of Rabbi Tzvi Hirsh Chitrik.
Welcome to today's lesson. Today we're going to learn from Daf Chaf Gimel Amud Beis on the bottom, from Reb Shimon ben Elazar Eimer, until on the top of the next page on Chaf Daled Amud Aleph, till Mar Zutra over here. Today's Gemara is going to speak about the last part of our Mishnah. So let's go to the Mishnah and see what it said. In the Mishnah, in the last part, it had said, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Eimer, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar said, Kol kli ampira, any ampira kli, any ampira vessel, ein chayv lahachriz. If a person finds it, they are not responsible to call it out and to return it to its owner. So today we are going to discuss what does it mean ampira. What is a kli ampira and ampira kli, and why is halacha that you don't need to try to find the owner? Let's go to our Gemara. So the Gemara first quotes the Mishnah, Reb Shimon ben Elazar Eimer, v'chulo. The Gemara asks, right away is a question, so let's put a question mark on the side. We'll put it over here. My anpaira. What is an anpaira? So we have the Gemara's answer. So the answer is also on the same line, so let's put it on this side. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Kelim Chadashim. What is an ampira? It's kelim chadashim, new kelim, new vessels, shaloi savatan ha'ayin, that the eye has not become used to yet. It's such a new vessel that a person cannot recognize it by its. If he finds, he won't be able to recognize that it's his because it's a new kelim. It's brand new. In such a case, Reb Shimon ben Elazar would say that a person does not need to, if he finds it in the street, he does not need to try to find the original owner, because the original owner for sure gave up finding it because he can barely recognize himself. Now the Gemara is going to ask, Heichi dami. So let's add a question mark over here. Heichi dami. In what case are we speaking about? I ispahu simin. If this new keli has a simin on it, Kiloi savatan ayin, if the person, the eye is not used to it, the person doesn't recognize it yet, he's not used to it, mai have, what's the big deal? If he has a siman, he should still be able to keep it. Let's go to our board. If a person lost for example, let's say a pot, and he has a siman, even if it could be a brand new pot, but if he knows that his pot has, for example, he wrote an X on the corner, so it has a siman. That's right, here it has a siman, and the answer is yes, it has a siman. So even if it's a brand new pot, if the person has a siman on it, he will look for the person who lost it will look for his pot, and he won't give up on it. So why does Reb Shimon ben Elazar say that the person who finds it can keep it? And if it's a case where he does not have a siman, right? It's a regular brand new pot with no siman on it. So let's have siman with an X. It does not have a siman. So even if it's not a brand new pot, if the person doesn't have a siman, they would give up finding it as well, because they don't know, they don't have a siman. So why would the person who finds it give it back to them? So this is the question of the Gemara. Why does Reb Shimon ben Elazar say that it makes a difference if the pot was new or if the pot was old? It should depend on if there's a siman on the pot or if there is no siman on the pot. Let's see this in the Gemara. Let's go back a little bit. Heichi dami. How are we speaking about? What type of case is Reb Shimon ben Elazar discussing? I ispahu siman. If the person has a siman on his pot, what's the big deal? If he does not recognize it, what's the big deal? He has a siman. He'll still look for it. The owner who lost it will still look for it, and therefore the person who found it should try to return it. And either leisbahu siman, and if the person has no siman on it, kisavatan ayin maihavi, even if the person can recognize it, why should he has no siman? Why does he think that someone would give it back to him? So the Gemara answers. Let's put an A over here. This is where the Gemara's answer begins. Le'olam. What is Reb Shimon Elazar's case? He's talking about a case of delays behu siman. In a case, let's go to our board. In a case where there is no siman, it's a pot which has no markings on it and no siman. So our question was, if there's no siman, the owner would for sure give up on finding it because he has no way of proving that it's his. So let's see what type of case this is we're discussing. So la'ilam delays behu siman. However, nafkamina, there will be a difference. Ladure letzurba merabanan betzvias eina, to return it to Talmidei Chachamim by them recognizing it. A Talmud Chacham, if he recognized it, then the halach would be different than regular people if they would if they would lose something. Because Ksavaton ha'ayin, if the eye recognizes it, he's used to it, then Kim lehu b'gavayu, he will be certain that this pot is actually his. The Talmud Chacham will be certain that it's his. And we will return it to him, to the Talmud Chacham. Ki lo yisavatan ayin, if the person does not recognize it, lo kim lehu b'gavayu, he will not be certain that it's his, and he will not claim it. The Talmud Chacham will not claim it. But lo ma'adrinan lei, and we will not return it to the Talmud Chacham. What is the Gemara saying? The Gemara is saying that if we were if our case was with a Talmud Chacham, let's write this down, a Talmud Chacham. This is the Talmud Chacham. If the Talmud Chacham has a pot that has no siman on it, if the Talmud Chacham recognizes it, we would give it back to the Talmud Chacham. Because Talmidei Chachamim, if they don't lie, if they say, I recognize it, it means that they're sure that it's theirs, and we believe them and we'll return to them even though they don't have a siman. However, if it wasn't a Talmud Chacham, then we wouldn't give it back. But Reb Shimon ben Elazar's case is specifically when a Talmud Chacham lost something, so if he recognizes it, then we would return it to him. How do we know about the trustworthiness of a Talmud Chacham? The Amr Rabbi Yehuda Amr Shmuel, because Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel, Bahani Tnas Mili Avidi Rabbana Dimshana B'Mosayu. In these three, Tlas means three. Let's just write that down. Tlas is three. In these three things, it's usual for a Rabbanan, for a Talmud Chacham, the Mishan b'Melayu, that they change their words. Which means there are only three things that we say that maybe a Talmud Chacham would be untruthful about. What are these three things? B'Meseches, Ubepuria, and on top of the next page is Bushpiza. That's number three. What are these three things? B'Meseches, if a person asks someone if he knows this Mesechta, if he asks the Talmud Chacham, do you know this Mesechta? He may say, oh, not really. He doesn't know it because he wants to be humble. But Puria, if someone asks him which bed he slept on, he also may say, because it's Tznius, no one needs to know where he slept. He says, he would say not truth. He would be not untruthful. And Bushpiza is that if a Talmud Chacham, eats at someone's house, and the host was very good, Bushpiza means a host. So if his host serves the good food and he was very happy there, he won't tell everyone about it because many people may take advantage of this new host and just keep going there because they're very big in Achnasas Archim. And if they take advantage of them, then the host will lose a lot of money. Could be people who are not good people are going to take advantage of them. So what do we see? Let's go back to the previous page. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel that there are only three things that a Talmud Chacham, a Rabbanan would say something which is untruthful. But if he would say that he recognizes that this pot belongs to him, then we would believe him. And therefore, that's what Rav Shimon Elazar has come to teach us, that in a case where the Tvias Ayin, if a brand new Keli, and the owner recognizes it, he has Savat on Ayin, he recognizes that it's his pot, then we would believe him. Let's just see this in the Gemara. Ma'in nafkamina. Why does Reb Yehuda say in the name of Shmuel these three things that a Talmud Chacham could be untruthful about? That's what the Gemara is asking. Ma'in nafkamina. And the Gemara answers. So the answer is Amar Marzuta right here. So the answer is also here. It's a question and answer on this line. Amar Marzutra. The reason why Reb Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel these three things that a Talmud Chacham was untruthful is to tell us that only in these three things. But in general, Adure le Avedasa, to return to him, to Talmud Chacham, something which they lost, B'tvias Eina, if they recognize it, we would believe it. We would believe the Talmud Chacham that it's his. Because Iyadina Bey, the loy mishane el bahani tlas, if we know about a Talmud Chacham, the loy mishane, that they don't change their words, they're not untruthful, ela bahani tlas, only in these three cases which we mentioned, then madrinale, then we would return to them, because we know that if they say that this pot belongs to them, we would believe them. But if we see a Talmud Chacham who is untruthful about other subjects as well, then we would not return it to him. So in our case of Talmud Chacham, it actually depends on the Talmud Chacham. If the Talmud Chacham is only untruthful of the three things that we discussed, then if he says he recognizes that the pot belongs to him, even if it has no siman, we would believe him. However, if we see a Talmud Chacham who lies in more than three things, so it would be 3+ things, more than three cases, not just the ones we mentioned earlier, then if he loses a pot and there's no siman, and he just says that he recognizes it, then Allah is we would not give it back to Talmud Chacham. And this is the end of this lesson.